Good morning. July 1st, new month. End of the quarter was yesterday. What is today? Thursday. Thursday, July 1st, talking stocks. All right. I got a lot to go over. Happy that you're here. Thank you for joining me this early. It's 6 a.m. where I'm at, so I'm still waking up, but I've been pounding some coffee and I should be ready to go. So, first off, one thing I wanted to point out. I always talk about the correlations in the markets. Sometimes there's, I watch some of the other meme stocks and popular stocks on Reddit because those are ones that, some of these other stocks that I'm in start to track. And then also about the S&P 500 and how that can affect the overall market and kind of have an effect on everything. So one thing that I did notice when I came on this morning and started to look was this huge candle right here. Let me see if I can zoom out at 5:05 a.m. where I'm looking at Clove now, went to a high of almost 1350 and then dropped down to 1335 with a lot of volume behind it. Come over here to Gamestop, kind of the same thing, 215.22 with the low at 213, huge candle, 5:05, and what is this, Atos, the other one I have up right now, 619 high, 602 low at 5:05. So immediately I started scanning some of the other charts I'm looking at, and sure enough, it happened almost everywhere. And here's the S&P 500. Hits a high of 429.07 and a low of 428.15, all at 5:05, all with a lot of volume. So that's kind of what I'm talking about when, like, sometimes when something big happens with the S&P 500, the SPY, it's an indicator of what's going on with the overall market. Not sure entirely what it means. I know the S&P did gap up tremendously. Where we at? All the way to 429.95 after closing at 428, and now it is down to 428.67. So it's kind of came back down, and it had to do a lot with job reports that came out this morning. So we may see a day where if the S&P rips, we'll get some extra boost in any stock that you're in, not just the ones I'm watching, or you may see if it starts to fall, kind of the same reaction. But it does seem like this is going to be a day where the market is going to somewhat indicate or dictate what's happening everywhere. So, all right, that was it. I just wanted to kind of point that out because that was pretty interesting. That's that 5:05 candle. Just moving into kind of all the stocks that I'm watching. I'm going to start with ATOS. Let's see here. All right, so obviously, anybody who might have jumped in this play with me, this was, like I said, high risk, high reward bet, based off the options chain. Throw a little bit of money in and big opportunity for this thing to blow higher, probably as high as 16 or 20. But because it is on such a tremendous run over the last couple months, also an opportunity for this thing to fall. So we just got to kind of see what happens. Somebody pointed out yesterday, and then I kind of did some research on it a little bit later too, that there was a significant amount of calls purchased at the 50-cent strike yesterday. Yesterday, ATOS was on a. Let me go back and show this too. I'm gonna try to get through all this before the market opens. But yesterday it was on short sale restriction. Okay, and so the stock. This is yesterday's 5-minute chart. It gapped down, touched as low as 605. Started trending downwards, and then we looked like we were having a pretty decent day. I mean, it was about to gain back everything that it got intraday, and then we saw these ridiculous red candles where we gave back everything that happened throughout the day before coming down and touching 611, which is very weird for an SSR day. Like, how do you get that sort of violent downward pressure? and there was some call sweeps and some insane kind of action happening at the 50-cent strike. This is still yesterday's option data. It hasn't updated yet on Webull. I think Webull updates a little bit closer to 6:30. But this is something that I've seen in the. Let me go back to the daily chart now. This is something I've seen in the past with GameStop specifically on SSR days. And what you'll see is, you know, people who are short the stock come in and purchase up deep in the money calls. The reason they do this is they can get their hands on a bunch of shares without affecting the stock price. Sometimes they'll use these shares to actually cover and return, you know, and sometimes they'll do them just to get their hands on shares and now sell the shares into the market, like do a big share dump. And technically, that's not short selling, right? So it's a way to circumvent the rules. So we saw 9,998, almost 10,000 calls get purchased yesterday at the 50-cent strike, and you could exercise those calls at any time. So that's basically a million shares that were able to get bought without affecting the stock price. And what happens is, even if there's nobody there to sell that's on the other end of this that's selling these calls, these guys can go in and buy and exercise, and now a market maker will create phantom shares that they now have to go back and buy before July 16th. That's the quick explanation of it. So you exercise these right away. You now have your hands on these shares, and you could just sell them into the market, and that's what kind of gets you this crazy downward drop, you know, over the course of, what was this, about 30 minutes, gave back the entire day's worth of worth of gains or recovery. So that's my expectation of what probably happened. But one thing that I should mention, like I said, these are kind of some tactics that I learned about in the Super Stonks subreddit, you know, a while back as they pertain to GameStop. And basically, these are still, if these were market makers that just kind of wrote these calls naked and sold them, and then somebody dumped them in, they basically transferred the liability now to the market maker. So now the market maker needs to return these shares, almost a million shares, before July 16th. That's my understanding of it. So there is still a deadline on this, that these shares would have to be repurchased. It's just kind of pushing it out a little bit. And then it could eventually become a failure to deliver, which is even more can kicking. And, you know, it just takes a little bit longer to get these shares back into the market or get them recovered. But the other thing in terms of ATOS, that there was a significant gap down yesterday, which, you know, if you've been following my channel, gaps usually get filled like 9 times out of 10 or 90% of the time. But we still have an upward gap that could potentially be getting filled too, potentially to this kind of like 590 level, and then even to this 540 level. I'm not overly concerned, one, because you know, I'm only in this for the July 16 options play. And for me, you know, we could see this thing come down and touch and take back off. The options chain seems to still be significantly loaded. The gamma squeeze potential is still there. So for me at least, I think that, you know, sometimes touching these lower levels could be healthy. If you look at the earlier run up that happened in June with this stock, you know, it came all the way up, touched 680-ish, and then it dropped back down and almost gave back all of those gains in the previous 4 days before starting another run. So that could be what we're seeing here. I mean, I'm just kind of, I think I said it in my original video. I'm going to buy the calls and just close my eyes and see what happens. So I'm interested to see what happens here. Major potential for a gamma squeeze still. Nothing's changed there. It's just a matter of, is it going to happen or not? And that's the bet that I made. RSI is still trading above 50, and we're still in the green on the MACD. You know, take that with a grain of salt. That's you know, these are lagging indicators, but this stock still is trading hot. So everything's all good there. Bngo, I'll try to speed it up too, because I know we're getting we got 20 more minutes before the market opens. No real news or anything happening with Bngo. It is trading in a channel of where it hasn't been able to close above $8. It's kind of gotten above 8, but it hasn't been able to close above $8. Where we at? Right here. Going all the way back to June 9th. Okay. And it hasn't closed below $7. Where we at there? In quite a while. So while it's touched below there once on June 21st, and I think that was more of a gap fill of this previous number, but it hasn't been able to close, below 7 either. So we're kind of in the $7 to $8 channel. And my assumption is once we break out of that and we're able to close above 8, now we'll go up here and test this 912, which was the high that was hit on June 8th. And then once we break above 912, try to get up here and test this 1569. That's what I'm banking on. I'm long on Bngo, long for the long term. And then I also have some shorter term calls that expire on August 20th. That is more of a bet that we're going to go up here and get this. Kind of my riskier play that I threw some money in just to, leverage my funds a little bit. But so nothing major happening with Bngo right now, but this is a company that potentially, in the times that I've been in this stock on and off over the last year, they'll just kind of drop little mini catalysts out of nowhere and just start dumping them every morning at 4 a.m. So I would imagine that, we haven't seen one in a couple weeks. We'll start getting some positive news out of them because it seems like they always have good information they're throwing out into the market. One more thing that I did notice with Bngo, and because I'm going to pull it up about Avxl as well, is analyst rating. And this is, right now it's trading at 733. On the low end, you have analysts saying it's worth $10 right now, and on the high end, 14. So it is trading at an undervalued level, which I think is very positive. I think once we get above the $8 mark and close above it, then you'll see more investors come in to see, okay, it broke out of the channel. Let's jump into this stock. But from a technical standpoint, even though this is saying 14, I think we'll run past that, and probably test that previous high. So let's see here. Avxl. Avxl had some major news announced, a couple big announcements in relation to their drugs that have to do with dementia, Parkinson's, all that kind of stuff. And that's when we started to see this monstrous run that it went on from almost $16 to a high of 31. But there was some significant gaps in here that needed to be filled. One at $25 and another one that I had previously missed down at 22.22. It does look like we are maybe trying to fill that gap. But once we do, I think this positive news is going to come right back. I'm not saying they're going to drop new news, but this initial run up was due to positive news. We saw some profit taking, and at this point, I think buyers are waiting for us to kind of fill this gap to jump back in. Looking at the analyst ratings on this stock, and a lot of these have been upgraded since this. A lot of this news came out, a couple weeks ago on June 14th. You're getting a $25 rating on the low end and $50 on the high. So this stock is trading well below what analysts think it should be at. And, I really think that once we see this gap fill, we'll see more institutional money kind of flow into here, and we'll get right back above and get back up to test 31. That's why I came back in and kind of bought, if you remember, if anyone was on the stream that day, I did sell my calls somewhere up and I saw it come down and fill this gap. So let's see. We are going to, so that's all for Avxl. Just kind of waiting and see what happens. Gamestop, not a lot of news right now. Still kind of trading in this little channel here. Looking to break out. I think once it does, volume's drying up. I think once we see some buying pressure come in, we are going to see it get back up here and test 350. And at any time, once it kind of rolls past 350, that's when I'm expecting, you know, the major breakout to get up here and test this high in January. And at that point, I think shorts are going to lose control and the squeeze is going to kick off. But, you know, patience is kind of the, you know, the key with this one. And I think with all squeeze plays, one thing that I will bring up is in regards to GameStop, there is some speculation about, you know, they do have a either a crypto token or an NFT that has, you know, it's on their website. You can see that it's there, and I think the date that it's supposed to be released is 7/14. And so some of the speculation is if they were going to announce kind of a crypto dividend to kind of help push and kick off the squeeze. Now, there's no verification that that's what the company's going to do. But if they are going to do it, they would have to announce it 10 days before the market, or 10 days before the date they were going to do it. So if they were going to do it on 7/14, well, they can't do it on July 4th because that's a holiday. So it would have to be an announcement made today or tomorrow. So there has been some speculation or kind of, you know, theories that maybe that announcement could be made today or tomorrow. And, you know, we'll just have to see how that plays out. Clove. Let's get to Clove because I know that's what everybody's kind of interested in right now, myself included. You know, first thing I want to say, because I know everybody's kind of like, well, when's it gonna happen? When's it gonna happen? You know, I think what we've been seeing in the price action in the stock is very positive. I think, you know, one, I just mentioned with GameStop, squeezes take time. But this is more than a meme stock, too. You know, like getting in at Clove at $13.30, which I think is where it's trading at right now, or, you know, maybe it hit $13.29 a little while ago, is very undervalued for where this company should be trading at now and the long-term growth potential of this company. So, you know, I think just buying and holding is the best case scenario. Don't get your hopes up on a huge squeeze today or a huge squeeze tomorrow. It's going to come eventually. I mean, the cost to borrow is ridiculously high. We'll get into that in a second. But outside of the squeeze, this is a great stock that is highly undervalued. So, you know, getting in at 13.30, I think in the short term, you're looking at a double or triple up in your value. Just as soon as we kind of, I mean, it's trading well below its value right now. So, I mean, I can't say enough about that. There's been plenty of videos made on why this stock is undervalued and where it should be trading at. My current target originally was 20 to 27. This has nothing to do with the squeeze, and I've kind of upped that to 25, 30 based on their recent expansion. You know, so I think you know, right now from a technical standpoint, we were able to close above the daily moving average. We've stayed above 13 now for 2 days. I think that's huge in terms of, you know, the technical standpoint, and from the market makers trying to pin this stock below 13. We haven't been able to close above 14 in a while. So to me, I think that's kind of, you know, the big next step. If you look at this $14 level, which is right here, we have gotten above it a couple times, especially in the last couple days, in the last week, but we haven't been able to close there. So I think that's kind of our next step. We get there and we, you know, we close above there and we break out of these channels that we're in right now, and more investors will start to jump in. Okay, the next thing I wanted to get to on Clove is the SEC filing. So there was 2 SEC filings yesterday. You know, and basically my understanding of that is it's a continuation of what was filed in April, kind of like the Green Oaks filing. And basically it has to do with those Class B shares that are going to be eligible to come out of lockup on July, I think it's July 6th or 7th. It's maybe even the 5th. It's next week. Regardless, next week, a lot of these Class B shares are going to be eligible to convert into Class A. There's been a lot of speculation or worry about it. And I assume and imagine that some of the short sellers that are in this stock are going to start spreading even more FUD about it, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, trying to get people to shake out of their shares. But basically, what's happening is, one, I should say this it's not going to dilute the stock and dilute the free float, because these are shares that are already owned. So people already own these shares. It's just they're Class B and not Class A. So they're going to convert them over to Class A, and now they're eligible for sale, which means they can't sell them, but that doesn't add on to the float. It just means that, they may be selling them back into the market for someone like us to buy. But these are institutional investors as well, so it's not something where they could just, the day that they get them, come out and dump them into the market. They still have to follow by, and abide SEC guidelines, and if they wanted to release some shares, they would have to file for it and then be able to sell them. And it definitely isn't going to affect the free float. The free float has to do with basically what we can buy as retail. These are all institutional investors that own major portions of the company. So when they convert over to Class A, those would still be considered, shares the same way as ownership shares that aren't going to add on to the free float in any way. But I think in the bigger picture, on top of that, if you look at Clove and when these guys got in, let's take this all the way back. So we're talking about shares that investors have been holding now. And this stock, when they first merged, was trading at what, $9.95. So, if I was an institutional investor and I got into this stock and my shares were locked up as Class B, and now all of a sudden they're Class A, and yeah, I can sell. I'm going to sell for a $4 gain. I know that this may seem kind of, this is purely speculation and all that, but, my speculation of this is all these institutions, and there's a lot of institutional ownership in Clove, bought into this company because they believe in the company and the long-term growth of the company. And, moving from $9 to $13, in, what are we looking at? Probably around a year's time. I don't think they're going to be ready to take their profits and walk away from the stock. I mean, you might see some people maybe sell small blocks of their shares and move on. But to me, I think they would be waiting for something bigger, at least like a $30 target, a $40 target. A lot of the speculation in this stock for long term is like, maybe $100, something like that. And I think a lot of these institutional investors are going to be sticking around to see this stock grow because it does have massive growth potential. So I'm not overly concerned with any of this conversion of, Class B to Class A. I think it's going to be, when it happens, you're going to see a lot of FUD come out and a lot of stories, the same way that we've been getting like hit with like a Hindenburg report or anything like that to try to drive the stock down. But in the grand scheme of things, I think once it happens, you might see even more institutional investors start to break in, especially once we kind of maybe get and close above 14. And at the end of the day, I'll get into the Vortex data real quick, and then we'll kind of, I'll start looking at the chat because we are getting ready to open the markets. But let's see if this is even updated today. Yesterday it was showing 48. A net of 1.16 borrowed already this morning. So they are borrowing some more. We are seeing an increase of 2.3% in the short interest. And cost to borrow, 74% on the high end. On the low end, 259 on the high end, 162 average. That cost to borrow is going to absolutely, bleed these shorts out. It really is. So that cost to borrow is high. And no matter what's happening, anyone who's holding on to this stock right now that borrowed it and is shorting it into the market is paying exorbitant fees every single day. So to me, that's the big thing right now. And I went back and compared to GameStop and AMC on this Vortex yesterday, and maybe I'll get into that in a little bit after we kind of see the market open. But you could see on some of these graphs that Vortex provides that when GameStop had its biggest peaks and run-ups, and when AMC had its biggest run-ups, it was when their cost to borrow started rising. And AMC's cost to borrow never even reached. I don't recall what GameStop's hype was, but they didn't even reach anywhere near where we're at right now, like 48. So really, really big expectations here for me for what we're going to see with Clove. Options real quick, just to see if Ortex actually updated this stuff yet. Open interest now at the yeah, it has updated while I'm sitting here rambling on. So at the $14 strike, 17,000, 14.50, 8,000, 15, 14,000. So we still kind of have the ability here to see this ramp up as we break above 13.50 and 14. This is this week's option chain, so the delta hedging is going to be a little bit tighter, and we still have the ability now to kind of see this ramp. There's not a lot here at the 15.50 mark, but I think all of these shares in here is enough to maybe propel us to 16, which we now have 9,000 shares sitting there. So, and if you look at the delta on these, they're not hedged really at all. These 9,000 shares, only 11% of them have been hedged so far, and that accounts for 900,000 shares, these 9,000 contracts. So let's see what happens. If we go on a little run anytime between now and Friday, I can see the gamma of this pushing us into the 16 level, and I think that still stands. I know I'm not showing all the charts right now. My apologies. There was just so much to go over. I just want to, now that Ortex is up, the option chain is updated, I just want to see, and yes, ATOS does still have these monstrous calls in here. So gamma squeeze still on the table, and that's all I'm concerned about with that bet. Now you notice in anybody who was watching earlier, so we saw that volume yesterday at the 50-cent strike on ATOS. Those calls were bought, exercised, and that's why you don't see the open interest here anymore. So, all right, that's it. Let's get to the charts, and then I'll start getting through the chat as we open. But it looks like Clove right now in pre-market has went down as low as 13.20. We closed out the day yesterday at 13.30, so not a significant gap down. Again, I think this is fine. We've seen major support, and we can check the level 2 now with Clove and see where we're at. In pre-market, these numbers are always a little bit smaller, but right now we are seeing support at $13, $13.10, and even $13.15. So GameStop, nothing really happening, no movement. ATOS looks like it went down and touched as low as 601 in pre-market and is now up to 614. And then Avxl. I'm not gonna turn Bngo on. If I had to choose one that I'm not overly concerned with right now, it's probably that one. It's just kind of still stuck in that channel. Again, I started doing this in Power Hour yesterday. I started figuring out a little bit how to do the Weeble a little bit more and control it a little bit more. And so now I have 4 screens up. If you guys would prefer to, let me know. I'll change it. I'm going to try to ramble through these real quick, see if there's anything I missed, and I'll star any of the ones that I want to get back to. Good morning, Jawad. Thank you for coming back in. Hey, and I was looking because I remember you said you wanted to message me, so I put a message with my email address, but either that or Twitter, whatever you're comfortable with, hit me up, man. Good morning, co-creator. Thanks for joining. Let's see. Let me zoom in on these a little bit more. Michael says, sorry I'm late, coach. I already did 5 laps and 20 burpees. How strong a play do you think ATOS is short term? I kind of talked about it in the, at the very beginning of the show, but basically, to me, it's just a straight up bet. I think that stock could break either way. I mean, it was trading at almost $1 something back in April. It could drop all the way back down to there. You know, especially because it does have some short interest in it, and you know, shorts kind of attacking it as well. Or it could hit this potential gamma squeeze and drive us up to $16. But that's something that's going to happen if it happens by July 16th. So that was just a pure. I threw a little bit of money in. Calls were pretty cheap. You know, to get involved in a potential gamma squeeze. But I'm going into that with the pure intentions of I could lose, you know, everything I threw into it. But I only put what $280 in. I bought 10 calls at 28 cents, and right now those 10 calls that I bought are worth 25 cents. So still pretty cheap if somebody wanted to jump in on that one. Let's see. Good morning, coach and fellow Clovesters. I have a meeting in the city, but wanted to pop in to show support. Hope to catch the afternoon stream today. Have a great day. Thank you, Scotty. Appreciate it. And if you're still listening while you're driving, I'll try to even announce some of the prices for you. Almost said scores. Let's see. Lots of impatient on r/Clove. Yeah, on the Reddit subreddit. That's the big thing. I think a lot of people need to realize is that you know patience is key in these squeeze plays, and I mean in every play. You know, like I mean even if you're getting into something from an investment standpoint. Hold on, Clove just broke below 13 on this opening candle, but bounced. Let's see what happens here. Um, Wonder if we got more shares getting bought here. I'm just checking Ortex real quick. We got a net of 1.1 million shares borrowed this morning. Let's see where this candle finishes. I mean, touching below 13 isn't terrible, but I'd really love to see this candle stay above 13 and hold that support today. You know, if not, then we're going to be trading, you know, below 13, and the new goal is going to be just finishing the day above 13. But let's see what happens. We're already. Yeah, but in regards to that impatience, you know, I can't stress enough that, you know, I mean, these squeeze plays take time. And, you know, just people have to realize that. You know, if you're getting into this stuff to make a quick buck, yeah, it may happen, but I mean, like, there's been people, myself included, who've been sitting in GameStop for 6 months, and I've had plenty of opportunities to sell for small profits, but I'm holding on for the bigger picture, and I think that's the mindset that people need to have with these squeeze plays. You know, it doesn't cost us anything to hold the stock. It costs them everything. And I don't understand the impatience when I feel like we're winning right now. You know, we've been holding above 13. The cost to borrow is absolutely insane. And that's what's really going to drive these shorts out of the stock. So we'll just, you know, as this continues to go, when we have green days, we'll get more people bought in and maybe get some more people to realize. And really, it all comes down to building the community too. And I think that's you know something that I haven't mentioned yet in this stream. So anybody who's new to this stream, thank you for joining. But you know, I always say you know hit subscribe on my videos so that you get you know you kind of find out when I'm going to drop a new video or you get notified before I go live. But I think it's also very important that you know you subscribe to the other YouTubers that are also talking about Clove. You know, go hit the subscribe button, even if you're not watching them. Go hit the subscribe button and go hit like on their Clove videos because what's going to happen is you're going to build up the community in terms of you're going to get them into the YouTube algorithms. And what's going to happen is someone might be looking to go look up Avxl stock or you know shit, Disney stock. It doesn't matter. But when they start searching up stocks, you're gonna now these other YouTubers that are covering Clove are gonna come up at the end of those videos, and it's just gonna help build the community. The other thing I want to point out is if you go in and the description of this video, I did put a link to the Clove subreddit and the Clove Discord. You know, we want to try to get more people in there. So let's see here. I'm really behind on comments. So I might skip some. But the market takes from the impatient and gives to the patient. And co-creator says that's a Warren Buffett quote, and absolutely. Sent you a message on the Discord with a video DD on Clove. Okay, I'm gonna check it out. Is it one you put together, or is it something that somebody else had thrown out there? I'm just curious, but I'll check it out in 1 second. I already talked about the lockup period, so I'm sure that was before I did that. Let's see. In the video I sent you on Discord, the guy explains how what is currently happening with Clove is almost identical to what happened with Volkswagen and Porsche in 2009. Yeah, I've kind of heard some speculation about that too, and I'm not saying that it's not true. I'll watch the video because I really am interested, and I do think that that's possible. I just don't want to like get too big in these conspiracy theories, but I do think that if something like that was to happen, where and this is just me talking without even watching this video, where these institutions are buying up all the shares and trying to really mess with the hedge funds, they are going to be in big trouble. If really they're trying to come in and just really swallow up all the shares and kind of waiting to strike, at some point we will be looking at a massive squeeze. But I am going to, before I comment any further on it, I want to go watch that video and see exactly what it is. So as soon as we're done with this stream, I promise you I'm going to check it out. Do you think Clove could be a buyout candidate because of the low stock price, Apple or Amazon for the AI technology? Absolutely. I mean, I think, that's one of the things that is not really talked about as much with Clove. It's more about, in terms of where their stock price should be right now, it's all about the contracts and how many bodies they're managing and all that kind of stuff. And they are managing a lot and they're expanding. But every time they expand, they're also getting more users in their database, in the Clover Assistant database. And that's what I think can be disruptive technology for the healthcare industry. And that's what really draws me to this play and makes this like a huge hyper growth play where you're getting in right now at $13 and it could be a buyout. It could be that maybe once we start squeezing, maybe the company doesn't at the money offering. And I'm not talking the AMC style where they end up diluting the stock by 385%. But I mean, Gamestop, I think sold about maybe 5 to 10%, like diluted their stock by 5 to 10% to take advantage of the squeeze and, raise some capital, which I think any company would do. But they were able to, by just diluting their float by about 5 to 10%, they were able to raise $2 billion, and I think a little bit more than 2 billion. I think they have 2 billion on hand right now, and when you look at that, now how much more expansion can the company itself do with that Clover Assistant and that technology that they have, that AI tech? They may be willing to just expand as a company, but I do think that at this low price, yeah, they would be absolutely a candidate for a buyout if that's the route the company wanted to go. But that Clover AI, I think, could be a game changer. Let's see. I did check out Sweepcast. I might try the little free trial and check it out. I know there's a couple other services out there that do the same thing, but honestly, I'm definitely, I think the more information that I can kind of provide on this stream, it'll make it a lot more fun and keep everybody more informed. So I'm probably gonna get some sort of subscription into that options activity because, I like to analyze options too. And recently, I've been trying to, at night I'd like to do, a little bit more information and due diligence on some of these stocks, but you're stuck with not knowing the full picture until the next morning when that volume converts into open interest. So I've already been kind of looking into getting into something that'll give me more real-time options data. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Let's see here. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. Shaw, thank you. Give a like and sub Coach Channels, guys. You're doing a lot of great stuff for us. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, ATOS is rolling. Let me see if I can catch up with these comments, and it looks like I did. So it seems there's hard hedge funds shorting this morning, maybe trying to pull it down as hard as they can. Maybe all the ammo they have hitting all at once. They're panicking. Yeah, I mean, I don't think, and we talked about this yesterday too. I don't think there's a ton more shares out there. So just looking at Ortex one more time, shares on loans at 54, almost 55, and another net 1 million have been borrowed. So that puts us right back up to 56, and the highest we've ever seen is 61 million. But that doesn't mean that all those shares are still available right now, too, right? Because the more that we come in and buy up the float, or people turn off their lending on their brokerage apps, you know, or switch their accounts to cash and don't allow their brokers to lend their shares out, the less shares that are out there, and so less that they're available to borrow. So, um, I do think they're running out of firepower, and we had talked about that the other day when they borrowed 7 million shares. I think it was today's Thursday, so that was Tuesday. So a net of 7 million shares, and they still weren't able to push us below 13. To me, that was kind of showing that the firepower is running out. But I do think that they can also, there's a lot of illegal stuff that goes on too, and manipulation stuff that is out there. I just want to be honest. I mean, there is there is ways that they could figure out how to push this stock down. I did talk about how they did it one of those ways with ATOS yesterday by buying deep in the money calls. So anything's possible, but I do think we're winning right now. And one of the biggest reasons I say we're winning is because of the cost to borrow. Uh, let's see. All I can picture is Leonardo DiCaprio smoking a cigar, laughing in a pile of money, watching Clove charts. We're coming for you, Leo. Octaviano says Nolan farted. Good morning, everybody. You guys are funny. So that's a co-creator. I love this community. You guys are hilarious. Good morning, Octaviano, too. Thank you for coming back in. I appreciate it. I appreciate the support from everybody. Um, this has been a lot of fun, and it's continuing to be fun. So it looks like Clove did touch as low as 1286, but the candle itself, where do we close that candle? 1290, and now it's looking to push right above VWAP. ATOS broke out strong and is now, hitting 661, maybe looking to go on a little run here. Volume right now on Clove for the day, 3.2 million. Not a bad start. Gamestop, just want to check my volume still haven't figured out how to get the daily volume up here for Weeble. So that's one thing that, Nolan, if you're out there, if you know how to do that, let me know. Let's see here. So GameStop's volume on the day, ridiculously low, 164,000. Volume is absolutely drying up in GameStop right now. And I've talked about this before, how I think GameStop, by the way, trading at 213 on the day, down 0.5%. Seems like everything, Clove and GameStop are both down, not majorly low. Clove's down 1.8%, GME down 0.5%. But one thing with volume, I know a lot of people think, volume, that's what's going to make this go up. But when you're talking about a short squeeze, it can also be good when volume dries up, because the shorts eventually have to buy back, right? And so the smaller the volume is, it means nobody's selling and everybody's just, people already have their shares and they're just holding. Now, when they do have to buy back and no one's selling, it's going to push that price higher. So, some of the biggest pops GameStop has had in the last 6 months have come on days, following, the smallest volume. So we'll see what happens. Covered ATOS. So I talked about it. That was the very first stock I talked about as soon as I opened the show. But just if you want to go back and check it out, cool. If not, I mean, basically, I think that it could potentially fill the gap that it has from a couple of days ago. I think the stock could really break either way. Looking at what we're seeing right now, though, it looks like it's getting a lot of buying support, and really, The options data is still there, still potential for a gamma squeeze, which is what I'm looking at from this stock. So, you know, I think if we could eventually break above, you know, $7.50, $7.50, we should see some major movement here. Let's see here. Did you say you couldn't find volume on that software and GME is an option on the window? Nah, so what I'm looking at is like, so for instance, if I'm looking at right here, it's giving me the candle volume, you know, like volume on this candle is 33,000. I'm used to seeing like on my Thinkorswim app, you know, right here where it's showing me what the daily percentage is, like it's down 0.23% for the day. I like a little daily volume readout, like kind of like, you know, this is where our volume is accumulation for the day. I just got to figure out a way to get that report somewhere up here because I'm used to kind of looking at that to kind of gauge the daily volume. But I've been learning. I mean, anyone who was on yesterday's early stream, I was trying to click around to some of my other charts, and every time I click, it was changing charts over here, and it was, you know, I figured it out. I did some custom layouts. Anyone who wasn't on the afternoon show, now I have my, you know, 4 up. I got when I want to talk options. I left 2 charts here so you guys can continue to watch them when we're looking at the options chain. I set up a daily one when I'm looking at daily charts and put the option data over here next to it. And then I went back to the chart that we were originally looking at that had just two stocks. And I got to reset these charts. All right, let me get out of that because that looks like something's wrong there. It's still showing some, or maybe it was just the background. I might have to adjust that 2 up one. How'd you get the percent at the top? So basically, I'm doing a custom layout, and usually, you know, like what we were looking at before was one of these windows with, you know, adding widgets into this window. And so this one window had, you know, the volume or whatever for what you were clicked on. But now I've got in this custom layout 4 different chart windows. So each individual chart window is going to report the volume, or not the volume, but the percentage and all that kind of stuff on the top of that chart. I hope that makes sense. Let's see here. I want to take a look around. I want to take a look around the markets real quick, just while we're still kind of settling in on these openings. So Bngo heading downwards, trading at $7.10, down 3% on the day. I would imagine it's going to hold support at $7. We'll have to see how that goes. Avxl we have up here, Gamestop, Clove, Atos, AMC. I know some of you guys are in AMC. Nothing significant, down 43 cents on the day. Still holding strong. And I really do believe, like I've said it before, I'm not in AMC right now. I'm already juggling too many plays. But if AMC's got a nice wedge forming on a technical analysis side, and if it breaks up out of that wedge, I think that thing's going to run. So we'll have to see. You know, that's something I'm keeping my eye on. I did jump in on AMC right before that run up to 73 last time. And, you know, at some point here, I may throw a couple calls in. Not today, but if I do kind of feel like maybe I can time it right. The only thing I'm worried about, though, too, with these wedges is if it breaks down, it could drop significantly, too. So we'll see what happens. But AMC has kind of been trading right in this wedge where it's got a nice base, you know, and it's starting to really get to the edge of that consolidation where I think it could be breaking out soon. Space is continuing to fall. Virgin Galactic down 3.5%. Just keeping an eye on that. That's a company that you know, I've traded a lot in the past, and I'm looking for a decent entry point because I do think that's going to run up at some point as well. Yeah, so Avxl is kind of moving. No news, but if anyone who joined a little late, analyst ratings for this range anywhere from like I think $25 to $50. And I think it was just trying to fill that gap from the big run up we saw, and I think this thing's gonna blow again. So keeping my eye here. Let's see here. GameStop's getting hammered right now. Let me see. If you're included in Russell 3000 last week, current valuation is lower, 30% lower than 1 billion, which is prerequisite. Would that not be a good thing for ATOS to push upwards? Um, it's really hard to say. So I know one of the things when I was doing a little bit of research on ATOS was that it got recently gotten included in the Russell, and I think that was a lot of the buying pressure that started to push it upwards on this most recent run. And there was some speculation that it hadn't the buying hadn't completed yet, and that we would continue to see some buying into it right now. Current valuation is lower, 30% lower than 1 billion. Yeah, so I don't know if that would be good or bad. I mean, I like, a lot of the funds that track the Russell 3000, they're going to buy a certain amount of shares, and because they need to track with the fund. But I don't know that being lower than 1 billion right now, if I'm understanding the question correctly, is going to necessarily cause like more buyers to jump into the stock. I know I've been kind of poking around on the subreddit for ATOS, trying to get more information about the stock. And I know people have been trying to post in Wall Street Bets, the potential for a gamma squeeze here, and they can't because it's under 1 billion right now. So, trying to figure out how to get more people to jump in on this. But let's see here. Have you looked for a YouTube video? Nah, and I know there's plenty of information out there. I've just been really busy. I'm doing 3 hours of streaming a day. I just jumped on Webull. Was it? It might have been this Monday. So this is like my 4th day using it. So I'm kind of learning as I go, but I haven't even taken the time. Webull even sent me an email with a video to check out, but I'm learning. I'm kind of, and the more I'm learning, the more I'm loving this. I'm really starting to dig this almost just as much as Thinkorswim. It's just a matter of getting familiar with it. If they continue to push us below 13, they can get out of more short positions with less loss. Do I have that right? Well, it just depends on where somebody shorted the stock from, right? Like, if someone shorted this when it was trading down in that $6, $7, $8 level, even $9 level, they're still going to get out for a loss. I mean, they're still going to lose. But some of these people may have shorted this stock when it was up at 28, 20, 25, 22, in that range, and they're making money right now. But I think the big thing with the $13 is because of this week's option chain. So the option chain this week, max pain is at 13. So that has a little bit less to do with hedge funds or shorters, and more to do with market makers. So market makers, and I'm just going to check to make sure. Let's see if that max pain number was updated. But $13 is kind of the max pain point for market makers, and it's still $13 where they want to keep the stock to. They want to pin it down to, because that's going to make the most calls expire out of the money. But from a shorter's perspective, knowing how this option chain is set up, they want to keep this price down too, because once it heads past 1350, we've already seen what could happen. And I'll just go over here to this daily chart real quick and kind of show that. What the hell is CL? CLOV. There we go. 5-minute view. Turn on after hours. The last couple times that we have been able to pass 1350. I'm just going through this quick. We saw a nice spike up to 1417 before getting hammered down. And then the other day, again, once we were able to kind of get past this 1350 mark, we saw a run up to 1450 before getting kind of shorted. That's the day they borrowed 7 million shares to short it down. So I guess what I'm getting at is they want to suppress this price down below 13.2 just from the standpoint of it's going to the potential's there to kind of gamma ramp us because of the option chain right now to propel us almost to 15, 16, and they're running out of the firepower to short it back down. So I mean, any sort of run right now, there's not that many shares available out there. There's definitely not 7 million shares. So right now, if we saw some volume pour into this stock and all of a sudden saw us reach back up to that $13.50, $14 range, I could see that run happening, and they're probably not going to be able to prevent it as much as they were 2 days ago because the shares aren't available anymore. And then again, the cost to borrow is insane, so at some point they will be forced out of the stock. Hedge funds making STKS cheap. I've heard a little bit about that one. That's one I've never really invested in, but I know that's I believe that was a SPAC too, right? I could be completely wrong. Started watching about a week ago. Now watching your live feed for the live movement and narrative. Thanks. Making it rain. Right on. Thank you. I'm going to continue to do this as long as people are coming on. I'm having fun. I do got to go back to work in, I think, the middle of August. But I'm going to continue to do the live stream. I'm going to figure out a way to get it done. So I think school starts at 8:30. And I live like 5 minutes away, literally, from my school. For some reason in California, they made a law. Makes no sense to me that some of these laws are insane. But they made a law that high schools across the entire state cannot start school before 8:30, and it had something to do with giving kids time to wake up and be prepared. I don't know. It doesn't. But and at first I was kind of mad, like, oh man, now I'm gonna start work later, which means I'm gonna get off later, right? I'd rather just get it done and get out of work. But then I started thinking, okay, well, and this was just from a day trading aspect. Like I used to sit here and day trade, and then leave for work at like 7:30 to get there at 8. But now doing this live streaming, as much as I've been enjoying it, that gives me another half hour. So I'd probably still be able to get this live stream in, sign off at 8, and then run down to the school and still be there in time. All right, let's see here. Don't drool, quit school. I don't know. Cali and insane laws, no way. Yeah. I don't want to get there. I don't want to get political on the channel or nothing like that. We're going to keep it to stocks. But let's see. So with Clove, we are, where are we right now? 1286. So we just had a kind of a double bottom. We touched 1286 in that opening 5 minute candle. It was looking to push down and break below that. If we could keep this candle up, that could be a positive signal. Maybe we'll see the stock continue to roll upwards now and get back above VWAP. That would be amazing. Or we could see it continue to push lower. Just have to see. But Clove's trading right now at 1292. GME hit a low at 210.21. It looks like it's going to keep going lower. It's now at 210.85. ATOS, I would say this looks pretty positive on this chart right now. We started the day at 614. We're positive for the day, up 3.6%. Hit a high of 675. If we can continue to break past that, we might see this gamma squeeze kick off today for all I know. And again, that's what I'm in this for ATOS. It was just a bet, high risk, high reward. But, you know, this can happen at any day. See a little bit of buying pressure come in, push the stock upwards of 750, and things could really get wild there. Avxl did hit a high of 23.57. It's now breaking below VWAP at 23.12. Still up 1% on the day, but I really think this stock is going to take some time. I think it's going to go down, and I'm not saying like major time, but I do think it needs to get down and kind of tap that level of 22 or somewhere around there, and then take off. Let's see here. Frank, so I did cover that a little bit earlier, but I will I'll talk about it again because I think that's going to kind of be some of the bigger news that, and especially the FUD that's going to be spread, you know, here shortly. But my understanding is this, you know, a lot of the institutional investors, a lot of the people that invested in Clove pre-merger that got in had Class B shares. Okay, that's still part of the float, of the total float. Okay, it's just these ones have kind of different rights, and that's the reason why we weren't able to be included into the Russell 2000. And these shares were locked up where it had to be trading over a certain amount for a certain number of days to get out of the lockup. But now on July 5th, I believe, they're not going to be locked up anymore. But Class B shares need to be converted into Class A. So it's not necessarily Chamath filing it, it's the company in general. So I guess him in a way. But basically, this is the same type of filing we saw back in April and the same type of thing we saw with Green Oaks when they were filing. But basically, all they're doing is converting over their shares now that they can be converting, which also it doesn't really do anything to the float of the stock because they already own these shares. They're just now making them, you know, Class A shares. You know, and a lot of companies, there's a ton of institutional investors. If we look up any company, there's a ton of institutional investors that are Class A. You know, it just so happens because this was a more recent IPO merger type thing that these ones were Class B. So, you know, turning them over doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to dump the shares into the market. It just means that now they're going to get them over to those Class A shares. My speculation on that is, you know, and this is purely speculation, but from an investment standpoint, if you jumped into a stock, you know, that the merger price was $10, and right now it's trading at $12.90, are you going to sell for, you know, that 20% gain when I think the long-term prospectus on this stock is that it's this hyper-growth company that has the potential to be trading at, you know, $50, $100, and the potential for a squeeze right now. I don't think anyone's going to dump these shares the moment that they get converted. On top of that, you know, these are all institutional holders, so they can't just dump their shares into the market, is my understanding. They're going to have to still, you know, abide by SEC rules and file for when they do want to sell portions of their portfolio in Clove. So, but I am prepared. There's going to be a lot of FUD, I think. There's going to be a lot of, you know, the people that are short this stock are going to be trying to put out as much nasty information as they can and spin it in a negative light and make people feel like, you know, this is going to be some sort of share dilution. It's not a share dilution, and it also does nothing to the free float, you know, is my understanding. So, you know, they're just converting them over. So Class B, you own shares in Clove. You convert it over to Class A, you still own shares in Clove. And the free float doesn't account for, you know, ownership in the company and institutional shares. Those are all separate than the free float. So these shares are going to transfer over, and they're still going to be institutional holding shares. So the free float staying the same. That's my understanding of it. But I am going to continue to keep kind of reading up and doing as much DD on it as I can. Good morning, Coach from South Florida. A couple of days ago, you spoke briefly about 2 books by Andrew Aziz. Would you recommend these for beginners by myself? Absolutely. There's also a YouTube channel too, Bear Bull Traders, where they kind of, you know, do some, in terms of day trading. If you really want to get into day trading and learn about technical analysis, I learned a lot reading those books. And and that's what kind of drew me to their YouTube channel. They're very helpful. They've got a nice community. I've never paid to join the community, but they do like a YouTube show. I think at like 5 a.m. my time every day, where they kind of, or maybe 5:30, where they kind of go over like what stocks they're looking to day trade every day. And they're really great, really helpful. If you're into reading, I know some people don't like to read. Me, I enjoy reading, and so for me, I read those books, and then, but still, I'm kind of more of like I need to get hands on, so I'd read, and then I'd go in and start paper trading and trying out some of the techniques that they showed, and how to read the TA and stuff. But it's Bearable Traders is the YouTube channel, and I think there's even a couple more books. They put out a book kind of on like trader psychology and knowing when to sell and all that kind of stuff. But got a lot of good content there. Um, if Shamath and others convert and buy the rest of the available float, it'll squeeze immediately. Yeah, and that's the big thing too. I mean, just because they're converting from Class B to Class A doesn't mean anyone's intending to sell. They could be, but I mean, this conversion from B to A is something that was always going to happen. The Class B was just a lockup to make sure that they weren't going to dump within the first year. But again, like if you pull up any company, most of I would say the majority of the institutional holdings in all these companies are Class A shares. That's just common stock, right? And so all they're doing now is it's available for them to convert it into common stock. Why wouldn't they? So that's all it is. That's my interpretation of it. And yeah, convert into Class A in case of a squeeze. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that? If this stock all of a sudden 2 weeks from now or 2 months from now or whatever is trading at $200 because of a short squeeze, you're going to want to take advantage of that too, whether you believe in the company or not, right? I mean, yeah, I believe in the long-term growth potential of Clove, but if this thing's trading at $100, $200, I'm going to make some profit, and then when it falls back down to earth, I'll buy back in. I think that's what anybody should be looking to do in case of a squeeze. And I'm not saying 100 and 200s where I'm selling at or anything like that. That's something that, just as an example, I don't know if this squeeze would even go that high, and I don't know if this squeeze would go higher than that. That's something that when it happens, you'll have to evaluate, okay, where did it start at? How many shares are available? What's the volume looking like? How many shares have been returned? That way we kind of can gauge when it's a good time to exit. Real quick, Clove 1.7 million now net borrowed, so they are taking shares out today, but it really seems like not as many. If you remember, on Tuesday we saw a net borrow of 7 million, so there's not as much firepower available as what I'm speculating. Clove right now still trading below 13, and there's a significant sell wall at 12.99, 54,000 shares. We do have pretty much, let me see, a buy wall set up at 12.80 and 12.75 and 12.70. I'm hoping we do not fall that low. Let's bust through this 12.99 and get back above 13 is what I'd like to see. And then we'll probably see a lot of these support numbers start piling back in at 13. So we'll see how that goes. Gamestop, earlier I had said it touched as low as 210.15. It looks to be trying to bust through VWAP now. It's trading at 211.96. GameStop down 1% on the day. Clove down 260 on the day, or 2.6% on the day. ATOS up 4%. Maybe looking to go break this high of 675. That would be amazing. Avxl up 2.6%, trading at 23.46. Just looking around the market. Looks like AMC still trading lower, down 1.3%. And Space, Virgin Galactic still, looks like maybe it hit a low of 44.15 and now it's at 44.86, looking to bust through VWAP. So we'll see what happens. The S&P 500 is ripping. Anybody who, I say rip it, it's up 0.3%. But anybody who, anyone who was on earlier, I did point out that at 5:05 a.m., kind of when the announcement happened in regards to jobs came out, all of a sudden the S&P 500 dipped and went up and kind of had a lot of movement. And I don't care what stock you're in, you go back to 5:05, you'll see movement in all those stocks. And I was just kind of pointing out how the SPY does affect the entire market. Um, is there an instant effect on stock price when shares are shorted in mass quantity, or is there a lag and it's more complicated than shares bought and sold? No, it absolutely would be instantaneous. So essentially, all shorting is selling. Okay, and buying makes a stock go up, selling makes a stock go down, right? So in simplest terms, so um, and all shorting is someone's people are borrowing stock that they don't have. They go to a lender and say, "Hey, let me borrow this stock." So now, okay, I got 100,000 shares of Clove, and I want to drive this price down. So I'm going to take these 100,000 shares and sell them into the market, and that's going to create that downward pressure real quick. Hey, Scotty, goodbye. Thank you for joining me again. I appreciate it. Um, so, basically they're borrowing these shares they don't have. Let's say they borrowed them at right now. Clove just busted through 13, busted through VWAP 2. Let's see if we can hold this candle. If we can, I'd imagine 13 would be our new support. So let's see what happens. This could be big. We were trading under 13. We want to stay above 13. I think that's our new floor. I think so let's try to hold on to this. But yeah, so let's say right now I'm a short seller. I'm borrowing Clove while it's trading at $13. We'll make it a nice even number. So I'm going to go to a lender, borrow these shares at $13, and sell them into the market. Well, that selling is going to create downward pressure. So we'll see that immediately. But then what's going to happen is I then eventually have to go return those shares to the person I borrowed them from. So I need the price to go lower. I bought at 13. If I can go, or I borrowed at 13 and sold them, so now I have $13 in my pocket. I want to drive the price down to 12 at least, so I can go buy them back at 12. Now I just made $1, and then I can go give those back to the lender. Um, but there's more to it. There's a cost to borrow, right? And the cost to borrow right now is, and I know this isn't even answering your question now. I'm just talking, but it all kind of applies. The cost to borrow on the low end is 74%. On the high end is 259 for an average of 194%. Anything over 1 or 2% is high. Think if you're going to go buy I mean, especially over 6%. If you were going to go buy a house and borrow, you're not going to pay 196% interest rate. I don't know what you would buy for that interest rate. All right, we're seeing a huge spike right now in Gamestop, hitting upwards of 214, 215. Looking around the market, I don't see a spike like that in the SPY, but we are seeing a spike in Clove. AMC is also spiking through VWAP right now. This could get pretty interesting. So, remember I said a lot of these memes move together, and this could potentially. Well, let's see what happens. You know, let's keep an eye on it. But that's not a lot of volume behind it though. 46,000 in volume behind that spike in GameStop. And I'm just going to go over here and look at that spike in AMC. Not a lot of volume there either in relation to AMC. For AMC, that was a 1 million candle. And they've had 1 million candles throughout the day. So kind of the same thing. Not a ton of volume, but a lot of buying pressure there. Let's see. I got behind on the waiting for the subway below 13. Nobody panic. Hold. Catch it later. Yeah, absolutely. I want to check this buy. Do we have a buy wall now set up at 13? Not really. It looks like our major buyers are still sitting at 1290, 1285, 1280. So they're looking to get a deal right now, but also not any huge sell walls in between. So if we can continue to see some upward momentum, this could be pretty big. All right. Clove volume is low, short interest percentage is high, and the cost to borrow is high. Low volume is good for a squeeze, right? Yes, if everybody's holding their stock and, volume's dried up and now all of a sudden short sellers want to get out because this cost to borrow is just killing them and they're bleeding out every day. Well, it's easy to get out in high volume days, right? That means there's a ton of buyers and a ton of sellers, and shares are just trading back and forth. And I could just come in and start unloading my short position. I'll buy here, I'll wait a little bit, buy there, try to time it right without moving the price so much. But when volume's low and nobody's selling, you look at like this this level 2 over here. Right now, even right now, we see that there's people willing to sell the stock at 1303, 1304, 1305, 1306, at all these little penny increments. These can also be shorter still too. But down here, 1313, and it starts drying up. Now, if I need to get out 1,000,000 shares, even right now, if somebody wanted to come in and buy up 1,000,000 shares, they're going to blow through all these numbers and move this price potentially, up to 1350 or higher just with that one person making a buy. So, yeah, low volume, definitely good for a squeeze. No huge sell walls after 13, absolutely. Ripping. Let's see what happens. And I do think that, GameStop popping or AMC popping is going to, and I've said this before, it's going to be good for Clove and anybody else, So I think if GameStop can continue this upward momentum, trying to hold above 215 right now, that could potentially be good for all of these shorts. Have some of your open tickers froze? No, I don't think so. I think it's probably, have they? Well, let's take a look. I'll just look at the level 2 on it. So right now it's showing that Avxl is trading at between 23.50, 23.55. Go to a 1 minute and see. Could be that we're just not seeing volume in there right now too. 23.51, there it goes. So yeah, I think it. If it's kind of just holding the same price, then it's going to stay there. It could have been frozen, but I don't think so. It looks like it's kind of. This is still showing 23.48. If I flip back to this, 23.48. Yeah, so it's going. Just not a lot of movement, I think. So it just kind of appears that way. Yeah, and I think we can also tell when the volume is moving on it. So let's see. They have been stomping on us at this point. Punch a hole in their gas tank. All right. So let's see here. So Clove did break back below VWAP in that last 5-minute candle. Now at 1296 and heading back downwards. Again, we hit a bottom of 1286 twice. Kind of a double bottom. I think that's bullish, and we kind of rose up from there. We might just be stair stepping now. Come down, find some more support, and head back up. But the major, let me get this level 2 back. The major support that we're seeing right now, okay, 1290. So maybe we'll bounce off 1290 and then kind of bust back through. no major resistance right now until 1305. GameStop had touched 12 or 215.22, and you know, maybe consolidating a little bit of taking profits, and I can see this thing continuing to rise. ATOS, again, it had hit 675 a while ago now, almost a half hour ago, and then came down, but it did hold a volume weighted average price, VWAP, and it's looking to, which is a strong signal. I think this is going to go up and try to test that 675 again. Avxl kind of the same. It's been holding VWAP all morning. So might see some positive days. Might see some green in all these stocks today. Just looking around the market. AMC, same thing. It had that kind of nice big green candle that got it through VWAP earlier, and now it fell back below. It's currently trading at 56.25. Space had hit a big green candle right at the same time too. I didn't even notice that. So right at that 715 mark. And these are all highly shorted stocks, so could be some correlation in that, kind of like we talked about. That sometimes this could have been, and this is just speculation, like one particular person who was short a lot of these stocks decided to bail out and buy back their shares, and that, low volume, one person coming in and just sitting there buying back their position will do this, give you a big candle. And if they're unwinding all their positions, that might be why we saw similar spikes in some of these other stocks. I did notice they froze yesterday too. Clove did at least. I wonder if that's just my computer too. Like maybe I gotta start restarting my computer every morning before I get on, or my Wi-Fi or something. I don't know. Has anyone ever had that issue with Webull when you have like too many screens open? That could be it. Okay, let's see. Once a squeeze happens, how do we know when to sell or take profits without losing out on more profits but not getting stuck holding on to stocks that can't be sold? That is a great question. GameStop's popping again, now busted above 216. And ATOS seeing some movement on the same candle. So is AMC. AMC's popping right now. So, let's see how this plays out. But, that's a great question. How do we know when to sell? How do we know when to take profits? It's really hard to say. I mean, if we're talking like mother of all squeezes type stuff, like how, some people have been speculating, like let's say, GameStop. If GameStop reaches over 1,000, 2,000, something like that, which is what I'm expecting it to do. My kind of exit strategy there, because obviously you don't want to miss out on if this thing really does run, because if there is as many naked shorts in a stock like GameStop, and it's starting with a base of 200 right now, getting to 5 times where it's at right now is nothing. I mean, we've seen that happen with plenty of stocks, and especially when you have options-induced gamma squeezes, and you also have, then shorts trying to cover with people not selling and all that. I don't think anyone's going to be able to get out at the top. Like trying to time the top is just ridiculous. And how do you make sure that you don't sell early and miss out on profits? For me, I would say more of like mental stop losses. So let's just say I'll take GameStop for instance. Kind of my strategy, what I'm going to be looking to do is maybe like, I'm happy with selling at 1,000. I'm not going to, but if it gets up to like 2,000, let's just say, then for me, I'm gonna mentally kind of say, okay, it's trading at 2,000 right now. If it drops back down to 1,000, I'm getting out. And then kind of setting that like, okay, now it's done. So kind of like selling on the way down, I guess. And that's just my own personal what I'm gonna be looking to do. And the reason I say that is because I have no clue. People have been throwing out like insane numbers on how high this can go, and I don't know if that's possible or not. So if I kind of play it that way, that seems a little safer. If it goes up to 2,000, I'll sell on the way down at 1,000, because if it continues to go down and let's say it drops to 1,800, 1,700, 1,600, but then all of a sudden it hits and skyrockets up to 5 grand. Well, can you imagine if I would have sold at 2 grand? I would have been pissed. So now if it gets up to 5 grand, what's my new mental stop? Okay, maybe 2,500, maybe 3,000, something like that. I'm willing to stay in and see what happens until we get back to my mental stop. And now as it goes down, you know, maybe it continues to go down 5,000, 4,000, you know, and then 3,800, 3,600, and it takes off and hits a new high. So you get kind of the point, because really there's no way to know. And when you're talking about a short squeeze like that, and Clove would probably even be, it just depends where the base is at when it goes, right? Because now, I mean, even to talk about hitting 2,000, you're only talking about 10 times. And if we're talking about a true short squeeze where that many people need to get out, absolutely. You know, if the base of Clove when the squeeze kicks off is, you know, $12, you know, 10 times from there's 120. I think that's absolutely possible. 20 times from there's 200. I think that's absolutely possible. I mean, look at where the base of GameStop was when it initially closed in January. I mean, it started somewhere around $3, and it got all the way up to, you know, let's just say 300 to make it easy. So 100 times where it was at. You know, so what if GameStop can hit 100 times where it's at right now, as shorts trying to get out? What if Clove can get to 100 times and hit 1,000 from where it's starting at? I mean, it's really hard to say, and I think anyone who throws out specific price targets really has no damn clue what they're talking about. They're just trying to sell you on something or get you to be the bag holder or something along those lines. But you know, I think that's one strategy. You know, another strategy that I think you know is always safe, and when I talked about this yesterday, is, you know, on the way up, just to protect yourself. You know, maybe when you could sell 10 to 20% of what you have to cover your initial buying cost, that would also be pretty smart. You know, so, you know, let's say you own 1,000 shares, and on the way up you could sell 200 of them, and that covers everything that you've put into the stock. Now you can feel really comfortable about letting the other 80% ride. You know, and that's something that I still may end up doing on the way up. You know, but once it gets to some insane heights, you know, now I think I'd be probably mental stop loss. You know, and even if it's Clove, if Clove is just ripping one day and in a squeeze and hits 100 and hits 125, you know, while you may be tempted to sell, I think maybe you just kind of mentally tell yourself like, okay, 120 is cool, but I didn't even imagine getting here, so I'm willing to walk away with 80, you know, and then kind of see where it goes from there. And if it drops all the way back down, you know, and then okay, it hits 80, maybe you get out. Maybe you're like, you know, it's at 120 right now, but I'm gonna let it get down to 60 and see what happens. And maybe as it comes down, it bounces off 80 and takes off to 200. You know, now you're still in. So I think slowly, kind of gradually easing out of it is one way on the way up, and that'll keep you in. But also setting those mental stop losses. Hope that helps. Let's see. How can anyone possibly know that point? That's my other case. I doubt anyone would be pissed with 1,000% profit. Yeah, I would too. That's what I'm saying. You know, it's co-creator said he shit his pants, and I mean, I would too. You start seeing some absolutely insane prices like that. I mean, it's gonna be hard, but that's why I think like just being kind of set those mental stop losses in your head, like, and for me, it's like anything past 1,000, I'd be absolutely happy with. So, you know, and I'm talking GameStop now because it's so close there. It's established a new base that 5 times from here, I'm not even going to consider selling GameStop until it hits 1,000. But anything past 1,000, then I'll start using that mental stop loss kind of strategy. Let's see here. Be a machine at 1,000 stock price. I'm a millionaire. Absolutely. That's what I'm like. Um, let's get it. So where we at right now? Kind of lost that momentum. GME went up and hit 216.81. Now all the way back down to 213. Clove was looking to hold above VWAP. It did, and fell right back down below. One thing I know I've pointed out in the past too, whenever you see these big breaks or these breaks through VWAP, you want to look for volume behind it. That's what tells you that it was really kind of a bullish move, and that's usually, and this is more from a day trader's perspective, but whenever you see like a big or a candle through VWAP, you want to also see volume behind it. We didn't really see volume there, and so normally you'll see a reversal. Like it went through, so it's not really going to hold. That wasn't bullish or bearish. It was just kind of normal trading volume. Let me see if did any of these kind of bust through. Even Gamestop, I think I had mentioned when it happened that there wasn't a lot of volume behind it, and now it's trading right back down below. You'd want to see like one of your biggest candles in the previous candles pushing you through there with a lot of volume behind it. Ortex data. We are still at about 1.7 million net borrowed today. No big change. I think we were at 1.5 earlier, 1.6. So. Can you tell us about how to use options data to understand market and stock movement? Yeah, so I mean, for me at least, I think that options are supposed to be a derivative of the stock, right? So it's supposed to be a way to like buy options and leverage your money off the movement of a stock. But now, even more so with a lot of these popular stocks and these meme stocks and all this other stuff, um, in some cases, the stock has become a derivative of the options. And I know this isn't answering your question entirely, but like with something like ATOS, um, you know, the potential is there just because of the the open interest on the option chain to move the stock on itself without even having buying pressure. Like once this stock reaches $8, people don't no longer need to buy, and the stock is going to become a derivative of the options. It's going to move because of the options chain. Obviously, there's stock buying that's driven by that, but to get more to your answer, basically, what options, when you look at the open interest on an options chain, you're looking at where the markets are thinking this stock is going to go. So if I look at, and I'll pull up this options chain right now. I know I still have Clove up here. Let me see if I can reset this chart though. That seems kind of weird. There we go. No? GameStop 212. Huh. That's weird. There we go. That's correct now. For some reason, it is like still showing it after hours crap. 1 hour. There we go. All right. So if I wanted to look at, and I'm gonna try to pull up something that's like not really as much of a meme stock. Let's go Avxl, since that's one that I've been looking at. And I'm gonna go a little further out too. But if you look at, let's say, pushed out to August, and you kind of look at, these are bets. The open interest can kind of tell you the bets that the market is making. So, right here, 651 contracts at the $30 strike. 338 contracts at 40. A lot of those could also be, bets, but it kind of gives you a way to gauge where the market thinks it's going to move, and also looking at the premiums, right? So right here, if we look at the 30 strike, for August, you'd be paying where you needed to get to 32. If you look at the $24 strike, you needed to get to almost 28 to get in the money, but it kind of tells you which way that the market is leaning when you start looking at, is there more open interest in the puts? is there more open interest in the in the calls, which way are people, and there's actually a really low volume on Avxl's option data. Even if you look at something like Disney, and just kind of see how heavy the open interest is, you can kind of get an idea of where like the whales are looking, which way they're leaning. A lot of open interest at the 180 strike for this Friday tells you, and I don't really like looking at weeklies, but let's go out to October and see where the markets think this stock is going to be. And it seems like there's a big bet in here that this stock is going to, by October, be trading near 200. And there's not a ton of puts or anything, and so you can kind of look at that sort of stuff and gauge, But I mean, really, no one's perfect, everybody's wrong, but you could kind of look at option data and see where the big money is looking at, if that makes sense. Tomorrow's the last trading day of the week, but in reality, today is going to be the shorties. Is not going to take chances. Yeah, it's also the day before a 3-day weekend, right? So, July 4th is on Sunday. So Friday, the market's going to be closed as well. Or not Friday, but Monday, the market will be closed as well. So sometimes, you do see a lot of movement before a 3-day weekend. It could be retail exiting positions that they don't want to hold. But a lot of times it's like institutions and, bigger whales and stuff that don't want to hold positions over a 3-day weekend is my speculation. So we could see either shorts unwinding positions tomorrow. We could also see longs unwinding positions tomorrow. But sometimes before a 3-day weekend, we kind of do see some odd movement. Doesn't always happen though. I mean, the same way I think I talked about this yesterday was the end of the quarter, and sometimes you'll see kind of large movement in stocks right before the end of a quarter. I don't think in some of the stocks we were watching yesterday, we didn't see that significant of movement. So, but anything's possible. Have you looked at SRNE? It's making a big run today. No, I haven't. I'm going to be honest. I've been pretty busy, and especially trying to follow these 4 stocks or 5 that I'm invested in right now. But yeah, SRNE is up 9% today. It's got a 100% buy rating from analysts with a $35 price target and a 19 low. I'm just going to add this news ticker in here real quick and see what's up with that too. Bunch of crap about Kramer that I don't care about. A lot of options. No real news that I could see. Yeah, I don't know much about it. But being up, it's a 100% buy rating, and analyst ratings from 19 to 35, and it's trading at 10. That's might take a look into that. These damn medical companies are they run, and it's a therapeutic company, very similar to, what we're seeing with the ATOS and all this other one. So, if you can catch those ones at the right time, those are the ones that I like to throw down little bets on because, they could run big. So, I'll check into that a little bit more. For me, when a stock does a super pop, I recover my initial investment and let the profits ride out. Mentally, it makes my decision making easier as to how much profit I'm not willing to lose. Yeah, I've kind of, it's funny. I was talking to my neighbor about this yesterday. We were kind of, shooting the shit and talking about, just mistakes that we've made in stocks and, different things and holding too long, in different plays that we've been in and that sort of thing. And one thing that we, that I was saying last night, and I don't even always follow my own advice, because sometimes the greed kicks in, but, especially with options, those are the ones that if you hold on to too long, they disintegrate on you. So, one thing that I was saying was, probably even taking a little bit more than your profit. I mean, than your initial investment, right? Especially with options. Like, let's say something pops and you're holding on to some options contracts and they're, expire in 2 weeks or in a month or something, and you get where all of a sudden they're up insane amounts. I used to just sell to cover my costs and let the rest ride. But then a lot of times the rest that I let ride ended up going down and expiring worthless, and now it's like you made nothing on the play. So I would say, even from an option standpoint, take your initial investment and take a lot of profit off the table, because those contracts can still roll on and make you even more. But always take some profits with it, for sure. With shares, it's a lot easier to like take your initial investment. You're still up huge because they're not gonna expire on you. You know what I mean? So, but either way, always take some profits. Always make sure you cover your cost basis for sure. Um, no, I think that's a great strategy. I said, not sure if my strategy is a smart one. Anytime you're putting some green in your pocket, you're not walking away as a loss. You're doing good. Hedgies don't lose sleep, or don't sleep. Hedgies don't sleep. Absolutely. I had to rethink what I said, and I'm like, don't lose sleep. What the hell is Skip talking about? Yeah, nah, I think they are really. I think recently, with the pressure that retail's been putting on them and a lot of these different stocks, the pressure is definitely on. Let's see here. How long have you been doing this? How did you start? Where did you learn? With a full-time job, a family, and everything, how much can somebody possibly make doing this part-time? So, um, let me see if I can. Well, how much can someone possibly make? I mean, I think it really depends on how much you're kind of betting with. I think some of the mistakes that I've made over the 10 years that I've been investing, or 10 or so years, is so that answers your first question. Um, don't, for me at least, YOLOing and putting everything you have into one stock, on a whim, can make you some big gains, but can also wipe you out completely, and now you got to start over and rebuild. But if in terms of how much you could make, whether you're doing it part time or full time, I don't think really matters. Especially if you're like swing trading. So, which to me, essentially, even being in Clove squeeze right now is a swing trade. An investment is something that you buy into and you're ready to hold on to for 5 years, 10 years, and just let it grow. A trade, in my opinion, a swing trade is anything that's longer than a day and maybe shorter than a year, or shorter than 6 months. Now, Clove, there's a lot of people that are in Clove for the long term investment, myself included. But I'm saying a trade because it has this squeeze potential, and my intention is to be able to sell this stock within the next 3 to 6 months, maybe even the next 2 to 3 days or 2 to 3 weeks. So that's why I'm kind of have the mindset of a swing trade now. But if it doesn't happen, long term investment. But anyways, what I'm getting at is, you don't necessarily need to sit here and stare at the bar charts all day, right? So if you're in a specific trade, let's take Clove for example, you could set alerts in your software. Maybe you'd set an alert. If I wasn't going to be sitting here watching this all day, I'd probably set a Clove alert at $15, so that if it passes 15, I'm going to go back and look. And I'd probably set another one at 11, so if it falls below 11, I'm going to go look. That would kind of be my mental range. And you could set those alerts, and yeah, now you go to your full time job and do everything else, and I mean you're perfectly fine. It's just a matter of finding time to do the research, right? So, you get home from work, and that's a lot of what I used to do. When I first started out, was doing research at night, looking into the subreddits or reading articles online, finding information. Not as much information available 10 or 8 years ago, or even 5 years ago for that matter, as there is now, with the way these communities are building online. But I think you could absolutely do this with a full time job. I think everybody's dream is to be able to quit their job and be able to, maybe mine included, and be able to just kind of sit here and do this all day, and watch charts and day trade and get in and out of stuff. But I mean, how much can you make really depends on how much you have in there, right? And I mean, you could start small. Um, there's been times where, I mean, I pulled out almost my whole account, profits that I had to use it to do some upgrades at my house and some other stuff, and basically started back off with like $2,000, and which takes away your day trade ability because of the pattern day trade rules and everything else, and then turned around and turned that $2,000 into, God, almost like 20 times, 25 times what the initial was, within like 3 or 4 months. And a lot of that has to do with luck, hitting the right plays, maybe using some cash to leverage. So really, how much you could make depends on how much you're risking. But and I think if you were going to do it as a full-time job and that was your only source of income, you obviously wouldn't be able to take as many risks as, a lot of times when I do like risky plays like this ATOS play, if I was depending on my money from trading, to pay my house payment and that sort of stuff, I probably wouldn't be throwing cash into these extreme bet type scenarios that I know I could lose, right? I'd be more sitting into, safer stocks like Clove, where they have the potential for the 3 times growth in the short term, long term potential for, 10 times, 20 times growth without even having a squeeze in it. And, it just depends on your outlook. How did I start? So I've always been interested in investing money, real estate, just kind of like even when I was a kid, just, kind of like that whole monopoly mindset, buying and growing and all that kind of stuff. And so the whole concept of the stock market and all that kind of stuff has always been interesting to me. And so, um, I don't know, I think it was about 10 years ago, right around the time, like right before my son was born, because he's 9 now. And I just started like, I was kind of had some time home with the kids and stuff. Sitting there feeding the baby and all that kind of thing, and just getting involved. And even earlier when I was in high school, which is, I mean, almost 20 years ago now, my mom had like got into some penny stocks and stuff like that. So I kind of had a little bit of familiarity with like E Trade. I think it might have even been Scott Trade, or was it E Trade first? But either way, just slowly getting involved in seeing it then, and then kind of dipping my feet in the water about 10 years ago. And then, and at that time, it was just pure investing, throwing money in, doing some research on some stocks, buying some companies that I really believed in. Um, I think like a Nike, Disney, some stuff like that I just believed in and put some money in, and never looked back. And then just every time I get a paycheck, maybe put like $50 in. But then you start getting more familiarized with it. For me, it was all about reading, about the learning. Yeah, I just started like going and reading books, buying books off Barnes and Noble, all that kind of stuff. So, because that's just how I learn. And then really started getting into the trading aspect of it, probably, God, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago, 7 years ago, like more swing trading, day trading, probably 5 years ago. And then options trading maybe 3 years ago, 2 years ago, like, just kind of building and learning as I go. And now I just do a big combination of everything. Uh, I hope that answers your question. Um, doesn't leaving only profit to ride decrease your future profit margins? Leaving more in would increase profit percentages. Um, yes and no. I'm just looking at I really think that it just depends, right? I mean, you definitely want to cover your costs at some point. It just depends what you'd want to take out, and that all goes into people's risk tolerance. This is jumping back to that initial question. Like, for me, I would sell 20% of my position to cover my initial cost, because I want to leave more on the table to ride. But I like to gamble and I like to make, I mean, that's just my own risk tolerance. But some people, I think, would maybe get out at half. Once it gets to where they could sell half and get it, yeah, you're leaving less. But it all has to do with, how much you want to make and how much you're willing to risk. Um, Octaviano said he doesn't take profits. He either buys or sells at my satisfaction. Okay, I feel you. So he's saying he's going to get in, buy that stock, and he's not selling until he's ready to get the whole position out. And I feel that too. I mean that absolutely. I think everybody's a little, and I've done that a lot too, and I may end up doing that as well. I mean, if we see, it's really hard to gauge, but I think everybody should have their own exit strategy. Everybody should have an idea in their mind of exactly the way that they see it playing out, and it's never going to work out that way, and you're never going to really follow your exit strategy. I think to a T. It's just a matter of have a plan in place for when things do get wild. You just got to take a deep breath and say, okay, this is really happening now. Because you're going to start seeing your profit and loss on your portfolio going through the roof, and it's going to make you really apt to just like cut loose everything and take the profits. But then you're going to be kicking yourself when you see how much higher it goes. So just have a plan that includes, you know, whatever you're willing to risk and how much your profit targets are, and also in case it goes higher and exceeds your profit targets. I mean, that's kind of what I always, and I know that's very vague, but I would say just have a plan in place. Um, let's see. I'm just looking at this conversation that you guys got going on. Um, all right, so we got 7 minutes left. Today I do need to sign off right at 8 o'clock. Um, I'm gonna take my kids. Actually, we're gonna go out to. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Northern California, um, but we're gonna head up to Santa Cruz. It's about an hour and a half, 2 hour drive from where I'm at, just for the day. So, um, but we're gonna take off here, yeah, in about like 7 minutes or so. So, or not take off, but I'm gonna have to go get ready, and then we'll be taking off. So I'm gonna sign off right at 8. Just a quick. So I won't be doing the afternoon power hour today either, but just taking a look. Clove looks like we are kind of 3 times touch 1286. That's like a triple bottom. I don't think they're going to be able to get us much lower than that. That's kind of seems like a strong support level. Hopefully, we'll see this stock, bounce above that, get above VWAP, and eventually start to take off. But at the end of the day, again, it is going to have to move up at some point. We do see a net of 2 million shares borrowed now, 1 million returned, 3 million borrowed, so about 2 million more are out there now that may have already been contributed to these drops and this price suppression we're seeing. But the cost to borrow is still insane, and that's the biggest key here is that it's costing them every minute, every hour, every day that they hold this stock, and they're going to have to get out at some point. Um, let's see. So just looking around, GameStop went up and hit 216 today with a low of 210. It's now trading at 212. Speculation I had mentioned earlier today is that they may announce a crypto dividend because you need to announce the dividend 10 days before you do it. And that crypto token is supposed to be ready on July 14th, again on speculation, and that they may announce that tomorrow. So tomorrow could be a wild day for GameStop. We'll see how that goes. Avxl has been trading above VWAP all day. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it touching this 2272 the other day was enough of a gap fill for investors, and it's ready to start running again. We'll see how that plays out. ATOS also holding above VWAP today. That's pretty strong. We checked the option chain earlier, and the potential for the gamma squeeze still exists. So I'm still really, again, high risk, high reward bet. Nothing that I'm, You know, I wouldn't say this is safe by any means. I went into this knowing that my $300 or $280 that I put in can absolutely get wiped out, but I still think that this is major gamma squeeze potential before July 16th. Bngo, for those that are interested, where did my Bngo go? Down 3.5% today, which is basically 25 cents, and holding the line at $7 though. So let's see here with Clove, no real sell walls right now, but I'd imagine we're going to catch resistance right around 13 as we try to break through VWAP, and then yeah, I mean, we'll see how it goes from there. I'm gonna check the chat real quick, just to see if I missed anything. Went to school at Berkeley. I missed the Bay. So I actually I went back to school after I got out of, I was working at a print shop for a long time before I got into teaching 5 years ago. And I went back and did my teaching credential at Berkeley. So, and I'm also a Cal Bears fan. So, thank you. I appreciate it. Any books you could recommend for beginners to learn? In terms of day trading and charting, I had showed it yesterday. It was, let me see. And these are all written by bear bull traders. These to me were like kind of, but they're pretty heavy. If you're not into reading, I would say, look around on YouTube. But if you are, let's see, how to swing trade, advanced techniques in day trading, and then the really beginner book is how to day trade for a living. This was the first one. It's by Andrew Aziz, A-Z-I-Z. And these are actually this How to Swing Trade was by Brian Pesum, another member of Bear Bull Trading. But and they have some other books too on trader psychology. But to me, very easy reads. And then they have a YouTube channel where they get into a lot of stuff. So, I can't express enough. And there may be better books out there. Those are just the ones that I got into. I picked up the How to Day Trade for a Living, and then I just went onto their YouTube channel, went onto their website. They started coming out with other books. I think I got this one right around when it first came out. So I'm interested to see, just to answer my own question. So this was 2019. So it's fairly new too. So this was about 2 years ago. But great information in there. Think about it every day. I think you're talking exit strategy now. What do you really want? What do you really need? Absolutely. Rolling Stones. Have a great day with the family. Thank you. I appreciate it. AMC and Clove synced. Let me check that out real quick. Here, I'll pull it up right here just before I sign off. This is up to date, 8 a.m. Somewhat, I can see some of the similarities, like, this bottom here at 7, and this bottom here at 7, broke up to VWAP at 7:15. Absolutely. Yeah, trying to hold, and now another bottom at 7:50, 7:45. So they're somewhat similar. I can see that they're trying kind of syncing together. Let's see. Appreciate it. Have a good one. All right. So thank you guys. I appreciate it. Appreciate everyone joining. I won't be on for Power Hour today. Again, support the Clove community. Tar Heel Blue, Dutch Trade, Sean Stocks. I know there's other guys out there that I'm forgetting, but go like their videos. Go subscribe to them. Check the description of this video, and join the Clove subreddit, join the Discord. We're trying to grow this community and kind of get this thing. The more people we get in here to buy and hold, the harder it's going to be as this cost to borrow stays high and they try to come in and buy these stocks up, the shorters. There's going to be less available, and that's just going to make the stock price go higher. So One way of helping to support this community is to go on and actually, you know, hit like, hit subscribe, and get these videos into the algorithm so people come across them. Also, I'm going to throw this out because I keep forgetting. I'm not big on social media, but I did create a Twitter account just to kind of get this going. And so even like something like today, if I'm not going to go live on YouTube, maybe if I could tweet something out and at least be able to interact and message and stuff with people. So my Twitter is at Coach B Stocks. So if you have Twitter and you can give me a follow, you know, my DMs are open if you want to, you know, send a message or ask a question. And if something crazy kind of kicks off or something later on this today, I'm sure I'll be screenshotting charts and tweeting things out on there. So give me a follow if you're on there. All right, I got to go. I'll see everybody later. Thank you. I'll see everyone tomorrow. Have a good day. Good luck in the markets.